Hello there, I'm Stephen. Thanks very much for visiting my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be making an entry for the Pianobook Winter Voices project using this, a Yamaha VSS-30 and a whole bunch of guitar pedals. So, Winter Voices. It's a project by the Pianobook community, and the idea is to make the largest sample pack ever. They are looking for long voice and evolving sound source samples, and they're looking for as many contributors as possible to this. So, sounds exciting, and I thought I might as well contribute. And what's Pianobook? Well, it's a very nice place where people make sample libraries and then give them away to the community for free. I'm particularly drawn to it as there's a real focus on sort of character and ambience, and I find a lot of the sample libraries to be very evocative and really fire up my creativity and imagination. In fact, my most recent album, Circuits, there's a couple of tracks on it that feature Pianobook libraries very prominently. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Pianobook, and I'll pop a link in the description down below, and I suggest you check it out too if you're after some interesting sounds and a great community. I took part in the previous Pianobook project, Music for 300 Strangers, and I found it to be very inspiring. I ended up writing several pieces of music, and it actually sparked the idea for an album I'm now working on about the transition from winter, deepest, darkest winter, through to springtime with the sun rising. So I'm very keen to get involved in another project because who knows what might come out of this one. In order to submit to the Winter Voices library, the idea is to provide a recording of yourself singing a series of notes that they've asked for. Now, I love singing. I've recorded myself singing lots and lots over the years. But I thought what would be fun to do this time, seeing as we're in a bit of a sample of groove, would be to use this little box of tricks. This is a Yamaha VSS-30 digital voice sampler, I think, to give it its full title. Now, this is a great little fun sampler instrument. It's really good at producing lo-fi, grungy, sampled sounds, which you can then manipulate using some of the controls on here. And I've used this countless times over the years on lots and lots of things. I love sampling my voice into it. I love sampling other things that I can get my hands on into it too. On an album I released called To the Lighthouse, there's a track on it called The Hallway. And it's made up of a lot of sounds that I made using this piece of equipment. I sampled my voice into it. I turned it into big string patches and pad sounds and other weird noises. At one point, actually, I even held this up to the monitors as they were playing back the track while I was mixing it. And then I sampled it back in through this tiny little microphone, did some more manipulations, and then put that back into the track as well as a nice bit of kind of intro and outro kind of organic textures as well. So it's a really fantastic little box, this, and I really enjoy using it. So good to see what we can make of it today. So, how does it work? Well, it's a pretty basic setup, as I'm sure you can see. Now, what we've got here is we've got a load of built-in sounds, which I'm sure, as you can imagine, are the height of synthesis. That's a piano, by the way, in case you couldn't tell, and you can go through lots of other great sounds. Banjo. Wonderfully musical. Strings. Sounds like an old Bon Tempi. But the real joy of this comes from this button here, which is sampled voice. And this allows you to record through this tiny little microphone here. Now, the microphone, I think it's fair to say, is not the height of sensitive, and you very much basically have to put it right up to your mouth and yell into it. And seeing as at the moment I'm in full lockdown beard mode, and hair mode, to be honest, I've been growing this since lockdown started in March for reasons. I'm sure I'm going to scratch my beard all over this microphone, but let's just call that part of the organic texture, shall we? So anyway. So there we go. Slightly pitch-risey there. Let's not worry about that too much. And straight away, we can at least start doing some stuff with it. We're already getting some Art of Noise vibes, a bit of Laurie Anderson maybe, or Thomas Dolby, someone like that. So that's the basic functionings of this, but let's get it on the table. Let's get this plugged in to Logic so I can record it properly. And we'll get the notes in that we need to record. We'll manipulate them and see what we can do with the sounds. Let's go. Okay, so I've got the E2 sample recorded. Nice and noisy and grungy. So let's see what we can do with this using some of these controls up here. So firstly, we've got an ASDR envelope. So, you know, we want to make this into a bit of a more of a pad type sound. So let's give it plenty of attack. Maybe a bit much. We want a bit of release. Nice. Okay, now let's use some of these functions over here that allowed us to do things to the sample. So firstly, we can loop it. One nice hard edit point. Let's see if we can change that. Not particularly, I guess that's just that. One of the joys of using these, but what we can do is maybe we can use this function here, which plays the sample forward and then flips it backwards and plays it backwards, and then keeps coming back around. So let's turn that on. That's quite nice. Let's turn on the echo function, which I'm not sure is actually an echo. I think it does something to do with the envelope, but let's try that out. There we go, that's nice. I quite like the way that really starts to degrade a bit in the tail. We've got a fuzz as well, let's turn that on. There you go, that allows us to grunge it up quite nicely. How's this sounding? It's I hate mini keys, by the way. That's interesting. And we've got a couple of other functions up here: frequency modulation, amplitude modulation. I find the frequency modulation is just too wild. As you can see, you can control any of these with the plus and minus. So if you want to turn up, down the fuzz or whatever. So even if I turn this right down low, it only really affects the speed and not the range. So I'm not really interested in that. So let's turn that off. Amplitude gives you a bit of a tremolo effect. Oh, it's quite an interesting tail going on that, isn't there? Sounding quite good. I quite like it. But I thought what would be fun, let's continue messing around with this. It'd be good to put this through some guitar pedals, see what else we can do with the sound. Now, this keyboard, the VSS-30, it's quite beloved by people in the ambient genre, people making lo-fi music. one of the traditional things to do would be to put this through a massive reverb, something like a Big Sky or something like this, an Eventide Space. The black hole algorithm is particularly favored, although I think it's okay, that algorithm, but it's a bit dark. I prefer some of the other ones in that pedal. Something like a Boss RV5, the modulated reverb setting on that will probably sound quite nice on this too. But seeing as this is going into a big sample library, I found that some advice from Imogen Heat years ago. I remember her saying that she doesn't use that many reverbs because she finds that reverbs use up the whole frequency spectrum, and that can get a bit muddy. So I thought, seeing as we're putting this into a huge big library with lots of other people, actually I'll steer clear of the reverbs because there's probably going to be enough of that going on already. But what might be fun, maybe I'll use some delays. Delays are quite good as well, creating a bit of ambience, but without getting so greedy on the frequency spectrum. So I've got a Boss DM2W. This is the Wazza one, I think. Yep, which is a great sort of bucket brigade delay. I've also got this Strymon El Capistan, which does tape delay emulation. Kind of, you can dial up a bit of sort of Roland Space Echo RE201 kind of things on that, which sound nice. So that might sound quite good. But the other area that I'm interested in here, I think, is a bit of modulation. I like a bit of modulation. And I love choruses. I really love a chorus. My favorite chorus is probably the one on the Juno. You can probably see the one behind me. I love that chorus. And I also really like the Dimension D. I recently, over there as well, actually, you might be able to see behind me, there's I got one of those clones of the Dimension D that recently came out, and it sounds lovely. I really, really like it. And it's great for kind of stereoizing a mono synth or putting a bit of extra sort of rich lushness on something. And I've actually got that. I just have that wired in now on a send, so I can just send anything I want to it. But I've also got this Dimension C DC2W, another Wazza pedal. And this basically is an emulation for what's the Dimension C pedal, which has been around for a long time, but also has a version where it is the Dimension D as well. So we've got our nice 4 types of chorus here, and like on the Dimension D, where it's just clicky buttons, so you can actually stuff down multiple buttons at a time if you want to, and have multiple effects. So I'll be interested to try that out. I've also got this chorus. It's a CE2. Which again is another Wazza one. This is great, actually. I really like this, although I think it sounds better on guitars than it does on keyboards. So we'll see what it's like. But it also does a CE1 chorus, which is a lovely, lovely chorus. I've also got this Arian stereo chorus, which sounds nice too. So I might try that. And then also I've got this is actually quite a recent buy, this TC Electronics Vicious Vibe, which emulates the Univibe effect, the much sought after Univibe, and does quite a nice job of doing that as well. So that might be nice. That's quite a nice, slightly different kind of chorusy sound. So might see what happens there. I've also got this Muga Fuga phaser, 12-stage phaser. This is my favorite phaser. It's because it's just so versatile. It does lovely phaser sounds, but you can also, it's got this LFO which you can put up to insanely high rates and things like that, and it's very, very creative. It might be a bit much for this, but we'll see what happens. If I want to kind of amp the signal up a bit, it might be nice. There is a fuzz effect actually on here, but on the keyboard. But what I might do is I might pull out my big muff, but that might be a bit much, so I might use Super Overdrive from Boss. Just to give, if it needs a little bit of extra oomph, but we'll see how we do there. So let's have a play around with the pedals and see if we can come up with a good signal chain for this. Okay, so this is the effect chain that I've ended up with, and I'm very pleased with it. First, we've got the Boss Super Overdrive ST1. So this is adding just a tiny, tiny amount of gain here, just to provide a little bit of extra grit into the sound. I might alter this just as it's playing back the sample, just to get a tiny bit of more modulation happening. But yeah, just a little bit of extra grunt coming from this. Then it's going into the Boss DM2 delay. Nothing dramatic happening with this. I've just got it set to a fairly regular delay sound, just to add a bit of extra bit of space to the sound without getting too boomy in a reverb sense. Then I did end up using this Vicious Vibe. It sounds really nice, actually. So this is where it's going from mono into stereo as well. I've got this, it's quite a subtle effect, but it's there just to provide a little bit of rolling movement in the sound, which is nice. And then finally, it's coming into the dimension C. I've got it set to the dimension D setting. I've got it on the 4th preset, just on its own standalone. And that's doing exactly what I want it to do. Nice, subtle little chorus richness being added to the end. So let's see how this sample ends up sounding now. Okay, I'm liking that, sounding good. Now let's repeat the process for all the other notes. Well, as many of the notes I could sing anyway. I don't think I've quite got that range, but let's see how we can do and see if we can get a good sample for each of those notes. All right, managed to get deep down there to hit G0. So let's see how this sounds. Here we've got D1. So I've got the sample of me singing A1 recorded in here now. Let's see how this sounds. Okay, so now I've got B2 sampled into here. Let's run it through the effects chain. Let's hear how it sounds. Sounding great, really liking it. You can already hear some like ambient vibes coming out of this thing. Sounds very nice. All right, we've got our F#3 sample in there. Let's have a listen to how this sounds. Great. All right, C#4. I had to get up into falsetto to hit this note. Okay, I think we're done. Sounding really good. I really enjoyed that. That was good fun. Let me know in the comments what you thought about it. Let me know if you've got any pedals that you thought might have worked well here, or any other keyboards or effects that you think work well. Have you got one of these keyboards, the VSS-30? What have you used it for? Maybe you've got a Casio SDK1, I think, which is a similar kind of vibe, I think, to this. Or any other samplers you like. I won't go into it now, but I'm a big fan of the early Akai samplers, the S950 in particular, being one of my favorites. So I might make a video about that at some point. But if you like this video, please give it a like, subscribe to my channel. When you're there, you might as well punch that notification bell, just because it's there. But that's it for this time. Thanks so much for watching. Remember, be nice to people, and I'll see you next time.